This is reposted.
I was looking on YouTube and I found this TEDx talk from Frederick Imbo. He is a motivational speaker, but he became a referee to learn and speak about today's topic: how to not take things personally. I think we talk about this. You say you give up 50% of your fights with your marriage, not give up, but you just concede that half the time you're going to be wrong. And he has a quote in his speech, and he says, "Do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy?" And I think that's something that we've talked about before, but it's a good reminder that, like, holding on to something, like someone cutting you off in traffic and tailgating them, is you're going to be right. You're like, "Oh, you did something wrong to me," but they might tap the brakes and you might rear end them, and then you'll be wrong and unhappy. Do you think? What do you think about what Frederick had to say?
I really loved this speech. I'll get into the details about it later. I loved what he had to say. Me personally, I don't take things from other people personally. I had a great experience in high school. I had a really demonstrative football coach who would just absolutely scream you down and MF you and S you and just ride you mercilessly. He also happened to then become a family friend. So I would see him outside of a football context. And it really put in perspective that he was not giving you this bit personally. He was trying to help you, to put pressure on you to make your best. And by the way, the people that he didn't yell at, he didn't care about.
Hmm.
And so I really learned this lesson early on that, hey, it's not personal. There, some things just are. And so I've really kind of taken that in my profession, right? You work in entertainment, I work in radio, whatever. Like, you just can't take that they don't like you personally, because there's just so many different angles that someone could go to choose one of our jobs.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting what you said. I'm going to pivot a little bit from the topic. I mean, your kids are at a pretty progressive school. San Francisco is pretty progressive. I feel like society in general, or at least on the coasts of the U.S., are trying to eliminate that type of a coach from kids' lives. I
Mm.
had versions of that growing up, and you're right. The coach that, like, sure, maybe 1%, maybe 5% are just like mean people, but like coaches, I think I learned how to be less sensitive from that. I was definitely the most sensitive of three kids. But do you think the removal of that type of personality and saying, "Hey, whatever you try is good," like, is that hurting kids overall? Do you see that?
Man, that's a whole different discussion about coaching philosophies and everything. I certainly think kids need that structure. I don't know about the MFers and all that other stuff, but
Yeah.
also too, it really applies to bosses. I've had great bosses that are just really strong and give you the business. But it's not personal. I
Yeah.
mean, I've had bosses that do give personal jabs, and you're like, oh, it is personal. But the bosses that give it to you straight, it's not personal. It's just business, and I can handle that.
Yeah, and I guess everyone's different at the end of the day. It depends on how you accept that type of
Yeah,
coaching. Some
yeah.
people are going to completely fold, and some people are going to rise to the equation. The equation, that's not the right word. Something that Frederick did, he had a really cool analogy that I'd never heard of. There's two sides of the coin. One is don't take it personally, and the other is take it personally. Because I mean, there's this self-defense mechanism where, like, you need to understand how to protect yourself and also be socially aware. Like, if you think everyone has good intentions all the time, you're going to be the blissful idiot that no one wants to work with. But also, like, you need to be able to take it in stride. So I really appreciated that he says that there's two sides of it.
Yeah, the don't take it personally is assuming the best of someone. Who he was gives his example in his speech of someone looking at their phone while he's talking. And he
Mm,
says, well, maybe someone received something on their phone that their mom passed away. So then you don't take that personally to look at the phone. But then the other guy taking it personally is, we have a saying in our house, it's not rude if it's true. Like, you take something personal if someone speaks truth into your life and it triggers you. And if you step back and go like, oh, that's true. What they're telling me is true. They're not trying to jab me. It's a true thing.
yeah. And then at the very end of his speech, it was worth the payoff for me. He gave this really cool analogy. He holds up, he's European. He holds up 20 euros and he's like, "All right, who wants this 20 euros?" And everyone raises their hand, and then he crumples it up. And he's like, "Well, how about now?" And then he puts it in his mouth and spits it out. He says, "How about now?" And then, like, squashes it with his foot. He says, "How about now?" And this guy was still raising his hand. He's like, why? He's like, well, it's still 20 euros. He's like, no matter what people say about you, your value is still the same. And so like you're saying that if it's true, it's fair game. Or I forgot how you phrased it, but like it's not going to make you less. It's only going to make you more valuable because you're going to take that and maybe become better from it. And I just thought that was really on point with a $20 bill.
You know, the other things he says too, which I think is really, really applies to this. He gives the example that there are your brain has 50,000 thoughts a day and only 10,000 are positive. And I just think our brain is constantly trying to work on the negative and not the positive. So sometimes we just interpret what people are saying negatively, even maybe if it wasn't meant that way.
Yeah, it's like you're fighting an uphill battle already, trying to end on a positive note throughout your day. So it's like, just be able to deal with it. So yeah, I mean, all that to say that people don't always have the best intentions, but for the majority of the time, people aren't out to get you. Person didn't cut you off.
Well, this is the last thing. I don't take things personally from people, but I do take things personal from the universe. Like when I get in the wrong, honestly, like when I get in the wrong line at the grocery store, I'm like, the universe is out to get me. I take it personal. When someone cuts me off, I'm like, damn it. Or the line in the car that I'm driving in is longer. I take things from the universe very personally. I go the wrong way, I get stuck in construction. I take that personally from the universe. I know it doesn't make sense.
Is that just, and there's no remedy for that? The universe?
There really isn't. I've had to come to realize that I just think I'm insane and I got to drop it. But for most of my life, I take things personal from the universe.
Huh. It's funny. I have a similar thing. I think that no matter what I do, if I have to choose a grocery line, I'm going to pick the longest one. Or if I get Costco gas, I'm going to pick the longest one. But I don't think that's the universe. I just think that, I guess you can depend on how you phrase it. I just think that's how things are, and got to move on. But
I'm like, damn, God is cursing me at Trader Joe's right now. Give me the checker that sucks.
Yeah. But maybe I try to say everything else in my life I'm really lucky at, so that's a fair trade-off. I'll wait 30 seconds longer to get my Trader Joe O's and find other things. Like one time, here's a fun random story. One time I was walking into a building in San Francisco, going to a meeting, and I look on the ground and I was like, oh, there's $100. And I pick it up and I was like, oh, that was $200. So I wait for longer, but sometimes I find $200 on the ground.
I've never found $200. See, once again, the universe is targeting me.
Well, maybe as soon as we stop recording, you should go outside and start scavenging for $200.
I will.
Well, if you like this show, share it with a friend. You can find us on social media at Reposted Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. I'm Andrew Keller for the Long Nose Man. Thanks for stopping by.